Hi, it's Gadget UK here again. Quick look at a Neo Geo card that's faulty. So this is Cyberlip. It belongs to King Arthur. You may have seen King Arthur on various people's streams, usually in chat. He's often on Jamie Morgan, you know, Morgan Just Games. He's often in the chat there. He's got his own channel as well. He's a collector of arcade machines and things. He's got lots of arcade PCBs. I think he's got a full set of MVS carts and lots of AAS carts and stuff. But anyway, he sent me this because there's a problem with it. I'll show you. So I've got it plugged into the dusty MVS there. I'll clean that before the end of this video. Can you hear that? That is not normal. That's a problem with one of the VROMs. Well, we think it could be something on the cart itself. So we'll just take it apart, we'll have a look at the contacts and things to make sure they're all clean, and inspect the PCB just for any damage and stuff, and then, I don't know, have a look at the VROMs. You never know, it could just be a bad connection somewhere or something like that, but I suspect not. I suspect we're going to need to replace one of the VROMs. So if you've not seen Neo Geo carts on my channel before, I'm just going to cover some of the same old ground here. You know, they're easy to get into here. That screw's not good. Someone's cross-threaded that in the past, I can tell, because it's, yeah, it wasn't rotating properly there. But there's just 4 screws holding the 2 halves of the cartridge together here. Huge cartridges these. That one's not good either. Someone broke that one in the past. That's it's not a good start, is it? Hang on, that one's still in a little bit. Yeah, that one's not coming out because it's been cross-threaded. There we go. And if you carefully lift this up like this, you can pull the whole set of PCBs out of that little plastic piece there. You can see that, and slide it forward like this without damaging the label. Come on, it's an early card this, by the way. Yeah, there we go. And yeah, as you can see, the label's okay. It's been creased in the past because obviously someone's been in there previously. So if we just remove that separator, the thick part there is towards the top, towards the prog side. You know, you've got a thinner part at the bottom, a thicker part at the top. So the prog board here is where the VROMs sit. You can see them here actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, 5. It's got 5 VROMs on here, and the program ROM there. Well, the program's okay. You know, it's booting. We do a CRC check on it. I'm sure it'll come back okay. So there's a bit of wear on here. Can you see that? The gold plating. Look at that. It's terrible. The gold plating's been worn off that. You know what? It might just be dirty contacts. Actually, I'm just tempted to clean that with a bit of deoxit. That side, yeah, that side again. Can you see that in the light? Look at that. It's been pretty abrasively cleaned with something like a wire brush or something. I wouldn't use a wire brush to clean. Look at that there. That might even be the issue. Yeah, ignore what we're saying there, because that is actually on the character board. Although, in theory, if it related to the MROM, it could be something M related, where you know, the Z8 is telling it to do something crazy like play a sample that doesn't exist or something. That's a possibility. But we'll just clean with IPA to start with here. If this doesn't work, I'll have a go with deoxit. You can see there you get a bit of coating off, but generally you won't do that unless there's solder. You know, if there's a solder coat, that's when you get that grey surface coming off there. So yeah, that tells me that that's pretty dirty actually. In fact, the cotton bud has gone grey. I've had a quick inspection for damaged traces and things, and I don't see anything. I would say the number 1 problems with cartridges on the Neo Geo is dirt. It's amazing. You can literally not use your console for a month or something. Depending on where the cart's been stored, you can have bad connections and have all sorts of fun and games trying to get it working again until you've cleaned the contacts. Yeah, it looks terrible down here. Look at that. Can you see that in the light? I don't really know what's happened to that. It could be that it's been over cleaned. I don't know. Anyway, it's not any worse than it was. So let's carefully get those back in. So it's the thin one at the bottom, prog at the top. So let's do the character board first. And I believe it went this way around because we undid the screws, didn't we? And then we lifted it up. So you've got to kind of shove everything back in here. Hang on. Try and hold the boards together so they're paired together. And get this little divider here into its little slots. There is a slot. At the same time, get the boards to go over the screw mounts on the inside. Yeah, there we go. See, I managed that fairly easily. So yeah, we don't need to put the screws. We don't need to do anything with the screws at the moment. They're not going to fall out. It goes that way up into the MVS anyway. So I'm going to give it another try, just see if it's any different. So in order to work out which ROM might be the issue, it's difficult to scope these things, I'll talk about it later. I'm going to test by corrupting one ROM at a time in an emulator to see if I can replicate the issues and specific points of the game where the sounds are corrupted. So I've extracted all the files from cyberlip.zip into this folder. I've also copied in an Atari Lynx ROM that's 512K, the same size as the VROMs. We need to delete the V21 ROM. And then rename our dummy 512K ROM to the same name, you know, V21 that we deleted. And then we need to zip it back up. And then copy it back in with the other ROMs and test it in the emulator.
The federal government installed a supercomputer in Colony CO5 to control the androids.
So I'll point out the various places here where it's wrong and where it's right. The first part here is right, so that bit. And then the camera shutter sound, it's like a clicking noise in a minute, that's right as well. Just here. Hear that? Then it goes wrong on the speech here. Turn that down a bit. And this is key. So all this here is corrupted, the first few pages of this, and then there's two more sort of pages that are correct. It starts with the bit about the supercomputer. You'll hear it'll start to correct itself as soon as it gets to that page. Any second. There we go. And I'm getting identical behaviour testing with an emulator, corrupting the ROM we're about to swap. And there could be the output enable, but I checked that. There's a 139 that seems to drive that. It's correct there as well, look. And this is correct here, same in the emulator. And I'll do an emulator capture as well. Now this bit's different, there's a bit of corruption there. That doesn't occur in the emulator. But other than that, it's almost identical. Anyway, let me mute that. So we've certainly got one faulty chip potentially there, but it could be something to do with the address decoding. So in an ideal world, what you would want to do is perhaps scope the data bus and the address bus and the output enable and stuff go into each of those chips there. But it's very difficult to do. You know, you'd have to precariously balance these in your MVS, and they sag, and they can sort of short onto each other, as you can see. And obviously you've got to have your MVS in a certain location so that it's exposed enough that you can actually probe these things. And of course you can't probe the underside. You know, when the boards are connected up, you're kind of knackered. You've got to be probing the top side. So yeah, it's very difficult. It could be one of these. You can see here I tried piggybacking with a 139, and the reason I did that is because this is the chip that I think is the issue, and I traced its output enable, and lo and behold it does go to this 139. Not quite sure what these 174s are used for, so there's a chance, and I've done some measurements, and when I say measurements, diode tests from ground to each of the pins around all of these chips, couldn't find any differences, and I started to do the same on all these here and I couldn't find any differences. So in terms of input output pins, we haven't got any issues there. Could be something internally to one of these. It's a bit of guesswork, but what I do know is the behaviour, as you saw in the emulator there, is identical pretty much by corrupting that ROM. So yeah, there's a safe bet that's perhaps one of the issues, if not the entire issue. So we'll just get this off next. They are double-sided, these. I'm just going to go over this quickly with my solder sucker. I'm not going to use the Desolder station at the moment, can't do it. It's middle of the day and my wife's working, it'll make too much noise. So it's this one here. I've just made a red mark there with some permanent ink. It'll wipe off with some IPA, so we'll just wait for the iron to reach temperature. I'm just going to add a little bit of solder and flux to these. I don't want to risk doing any damage to this. You could just add some dedicated flux, but I tend to find adding a bit of fresh solder containing flux is just as good, if not better. So the chips that are on here, they're an NEC U, the micro symbol, PD 27C 4001, and straight away you can be, oh my god, where did I get one of those? What's the pinout for that? Well, I found the data sheet for that, and the equivalent is just a 27C 040, which are much easier to find, and I've got a load of those in stock, so I've been able to quickly program one up. Hopefully this will do it. I hope it's not one of them blooming 74 series chips, because that could be quite hard to try and diagnose. As I say, trying to measure things is the difficulty. It really is quite difficult to measure the carts and things on these when they're in a system. It's not so bad if you can measure the bridge on the back of the neogeo, because you've got access to the inputs and outputs from the cart, but you haven't got access to the individual chip selects. You can only do that on the actual chips themselves. Anyway, you can see the solder is coming away very easily there. And I've shown all the stuff before and got all the solder off, and then I'm doing the flick test here. Any that don't make a twangy noise like that, where you can see the pin move, like that one's a bit stiff maybe, you know there's still a bit of solder there. But yeah, I've dealt with the 4 or 5 that weren't flipping, and then I used this smooth ended pair of fine nose pliers here and grab a few and pivot, and they're all snapped off now as far as I can tell, so hopefully that should come off. But you've got to be patient, and you've got to inspect. See, the one snapped off there then, and you've got to check and recheck, otherwise when you lever this off, the pads are so small and the traces are so small that you could do some damage. So let's just see if that's ready to come up. Yeah, something's still holding it on there, look, it's moving a little bit on one side. I think this side nearest does here. Yeah, you can see that side's out, the other side isn't. Let's just try getting a bit of leverage there. Yeah, that side's up, can you see that? Somewhere down here. So we know it's one of these pins here. Yeah, if it's not ready, do not force it. So let's just check these ones again. It's that 4th one there, I think that 4th one is not twanging like it should do. Sometimes actually pushing in towards the centre helps, because they're kind of splayed outwards when they're mounted, and then it catches, you know, holds on that one side better than the other side. Yeah, it snapped off there, felt it. I can get all this solder and muck and stuff off there in a sec. So let's give that a try, hopefully that'll come up. Yeah, it's coming up, it's coming up. Let's just do this side again. Yeah, it's coming up. So I'm very carefully just try and lift it out. It's hanging a bit on this side. What you've got to remember, you've got little bits of solder on the pins and things, so there you go. It might not just fall out, but as you can see, no pad damage whatsoever there. Pads are perfect, we haven't got any through hole, and the chip is off. So I'm going to get my EEPROM on. I'll stick a label on it afterwards. The main thing is I just want to get it on there and test it. It might not be this. I have not got 100% certainty that this is going to be the issue. You can see the legs are splayed out there, so I'll just kind of roll it on the mat. You can see I've done that before. You look, you can see the imprint from the pins. That pin there's a wee bit bent. Yeah, that's not too bad. That should go on, I think. So our pin 1 marking is up there. Yeah, it can be quite hard to get these in. You can see even with that bending, it's still not far enough over that way. Let's alternate, get that side in, I think, instead, and then try and do, is that in? Yeah, this side. Just try and straighten them a little bit further. There we go, it's gone in. So we can just double checking I've got pin 1 the right way there, and I have. So let's just solder that in place, and we'll go and give it a try. I'm going to try and not go crazy with the solder here and just use a very minimal amount, which is what would have been on there already, you know, on the other chips I mean. Let's just check everything there. Yes, flat and flush. This one's going to be a pain. Let me reset it. There are 2 issues. We have fixed one of them, as you'll see. When it starts, there's like a little crackle at the start, and then what was really distorted, you couldn't hear anything at all, now works. So, and it's, you know, it's obviously significantly better. So, yeah. So there's the shutter speed. You know, you hear the crackle in a sec. Hang on. There, and then this is fixed. So yeah, 2 chips at least faulty. It's going to be quite difficult trying to track down the other one, because maybe it's just partial, unless we can find somewhere where it's very distorted.
The federal government installed a supercomputer in Colony CO5 to control the androids. Android military troops were made and trained against the...
So what happens when the game starts? Because I noticed some corruptions that we didn't notice in game on the emulator, and that might be a clue. It's when the laser guns are firing and stuff that's a bit crackly.
Cyberlip.
So let's just wait. There you go. That. So I think what I'll do here, let's just turn that down. We've got the distorted laser guns there. I need to go swap the ROMs around again until I work out which one of them gives us corrupted laser guns and that little squeak, you know, that crackle we had at the start there. And there, can you hear that?
The federal government, facing an increased population crisis, approved...
With the 4th one corrupted, the crackle was right at the start there, so that did match, but not in game, so there might actually be 3 faulty chips on this. So we'll target this one next. I'm going to go and dump it, actually. I'll take this off. We'll check it before I fit another one, just in case there's nothing wrong with that chip and I've got the wrong one. Anyway, so I'll just do the same thing. I'm not going to bore you showing you everything here. It's just going to be exactly the same process. Oh, it's hard to believe, seriously. Let me reset it. There's actually 3 chips bad on this, so we've nailed the second one as well. The third one, however, might be quite difficult to work out. So you'll note we had that crackling right at the start before the voiceover starts, just after the shutter speed. Shutter thing, you know, this noise here. Listen carefully. There you go, it's alright. This is okay. But it's what I showed before. When it goes into the demo, the laser gun now makes a crackling sound, and on the high score table there's a crackling sound, so there is a third problem. So all okay so far. Here you go. So that's not right. And that's not right. Oh god. So that's 2 bad chips so far. I tried dumping that in the programmer. It read it and it didn't match at all by a long shot. So Which of the three? Well, we've got 1 and 3 now, haven't we? I'm going to go back to the emulator and try these 3 again, just see if either of these 3 affect the high score table and the laser sound. It may be a case of it affects one or the other. You never know, we might end up replacing all 3, but there was so much good sound before we fixed these in general. We know that some of these are okay. If you think about it, it was kind of a 50-50. I would say 50% of the sound was bad, so we can't be far off now. I think it's going to be just one of these. I've got the feeling it's going to be that one. It's just quicker, far quicker. Yeah, every now and again, I'm just doing that for good measure. So it's remaining nice and free. Just give that one a go again. Yeah, there we go. No through hole, no damaged pads, so let's get the other chip on. Off we're done with it, it's here. So, yeah, again, look how splayed those are. When I came to put this one, it took ages. I must have spent 15 minutes trying to get the pins straight enough for it to go in on both sides. It's hard to believe, though, we've now had 3 chips that are bad on this. They're definitely bad. Before anyone is concerned, I'm just replacing chips that aren't bad here. The faults are always at the same point. That's important to know. When you test, and test, you know, switch it off and on, take the cart in and out, test again. The corruptions are always at the same point, and that gives you 100% confidence that it's not just like a random thing where you know, something on here is intermittent or one of the chips is intermittent. It's the same every time. Consistency is what you need when you're trying to diagnose faults like this. Oh my goodness, why is that not going in? There we go. So it's in on one side, look, and then this side is not aligned. Oh, I seriously hate these. Other boards, not so bad, you know, but you've got no clearance here. There's no clearance. What you can do is use magnification and then spec down here and see which pins are sticking out and just try and assist them. But, yeah, I think we're still a long way off. I might have to bend the pins outside of this again just to... Let's try that side. And that's the other thing, alternate. Let's try that side. Yeah, see, look, that side's in. Now this side isn't. Oh, there we go. Phew, that was far easier than that chip was for sure. Anyway, let's solder that one in and go and find out what's faulty next. So is this going to work? I don't know, I'm not holding my breath. I think it will. I think it will fix one of the issues, and then I think we're going to have another issue. I think it's going to be one of these where 4 out of 5 chips are bad. Maybe not. Let's just see. Good so far. Oh God, it's painful waiting. I suspect the laser's going to be corrupt still. Hopefully not. No, that's right. That's right now. It's just the high score table we need to see. Oh yes, fixed. So yeah, I need to do more testing, and what I mean by that is if I, let me just do a reset, I'm going to the menu, see if I can get to the jukebox. I can't remember what the keys you hold down there. Is it ABC? There it is, jukebox player. So yeah, what I need to do here is, well, not only test the full game out, but do this. Test each one of these all the way through. Some won't do anything because they'll just be blank, you know, you get gaps. Play testing the full game really a number of times is the only real way to be certain. So yeah, the board is looking very messy at the moment, seriously. I'll get rid of that X there. You can see, look, it just comes off that easy. But yeah, I started to desolder one of the wrong chips there. Which one was it? It was that one. I was trying to do this one originally, and I got that whole side there, got all of that side desoldered before I realised I was on the wrong IC. So yeah, anyway, we'll clean all of this flux off. Going to get cotton fibres everywhere here, and then we'll get the toothbrush onto it just to make it come up like new. You can see the fibres there, look, sticking on the pins. You can see you can just literally pull most of this off, and then when you toothbrush over it, it will look a lot better. So I'm just going to fold this over here and just move that away from that piece of paper I'm using, because it's got part numbers on it for a card I'm building at the moment. That'll be another video. So we'll just have a good scrub here now with a toothbrush and some IPA. You can see the bits of cotton fibres there. Most of them will just brush off that way, and we'll get the slightly stiffer brush onto it in a minute. But yeah, right now just go around in all different directions there. Let's get this super tidy. So a slightly larger gadget trademark solder points, but that's okay. That's okay. So yeah, we'll clean the edge up here, because obviously we've been using IPA. We'll have a wipe on the top side here with a paper towel and some IPA as well, and then I'll label these three up. I'm just going to go with the part number there, you know, like 010-V whatever, and just stick a small label onto each one. So I'll wet the PCB edge here, just because we've been having flux and stuff around this. That's it. So yeah, that's looking quite tidy. And then just for good measure, we'll just have a wipe on the top side here where we can. And we're going to wipe these because I'm going to get the label onto those in a sec. If you don't protect these with a label, any ambient light that sort of leaks into the cartridge, you know, UV on these will erase them, so it's always a good idea to stick labels on these. And just printing the labels here, you can see I've got a V13, a V14, and that'll be V21. I'm going to have to charge him 50p or £1 or something for this, because it's incredibly expensive, that stuff actually. Maybe I'll add 50p on or something just to cover the cost of that. So these almost fill the width of the chip actually, those, so I can just leave a little gap there like that. And stick that down, there we go. That's a V13. You could cut it so it's just covering the middle, but you know what, it doesn't really matter, does it? And it doesn't really matter if these aren't 100% straight and equidistant compared to each other. So this one's V14. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's a little bit pointing down this side, but no one's going to see it anyway, are they? There we go. Yeah, so there we are, not bad. And solder points are nice and tidy. Got a little bit of solder mask remover there, can you see that? There's a little bit of copper. It's just a tiny bit where perhaps the desolder station marked it. But yeah, that's ready to go back together. So bear in mind, I think there's been some thread damage on these, I'm not sure. Let's just turn it very slowly. Yeah, you can screw it forever, can you see that? I'm doing it very slowly, very loudly, it just goes forever. So yeah, that's suffered thread damage in the past. I seem to have misplaced the fourth screw at the moment, I'll find that in a sec. So let's have a go with that one. Again, that's just going round forever. I hate it when people overscrew these. I'm going to be lucky if this stays together. I kid you not, that is the only screw I think that's holding it. If I just turn it gently, yeah, that's tight. These ones here, you just go round and round and round, all three of them. So yeah, I did mention that when I was taking it apart, they seem to be flaky. So they're not going to fall out, but there's only one screw holding that in. So yeah, someone's mangled that in the past. Anyway, I'm going to go play test it. So Cyberlip is one of the worst Neo Geo games in my mind. It's not bad, but it is a credit muncher for sure. You can see I played right to the end here. This is the final boss. If I can beat this, then I've tested everything in terms of the sound. One thing I do like about this is the bosses aren't too bad. I mean, alright, I'm dying here, but you know what, there is a pattern to them and a tactic you can apply. Obviously, I'm a bit rusty on this one. When I played this before, I can usually get through this without losing the lives, this boss. I can do with many of the bosses actually on this. Come on. I reckon I must have put about 50 credits into this so far. Maybe even more. There we go, shields are down. Expecting me dizzy spinning around like that. There we go. I think that's it. There is one more room I didn't do, but because when you get towards the end, there's like 8 rooms, and you have to do a bit of a boss rush. So I did the other bosses before that, but there were 2 rooms left. There you go. It's ice score look. So completed it. Yeah. There we go. Fantastic. So I think King Arthur's called Tom, and his Cyberlip has gone back to him. I'll stick a photo up here. You can see he's kindly sent me a photo of his cabinet there while he was testing it. You saw me play test it all the way through and stuff, and yeah, there were no issues with it. The one thing I didn't cover in this video that I would perhaps do if it was my own car, and Tom can do this if he wants, get some of that thread lock stuff. You know, it's like a little pink goo and it sets like a hard plastic. And if you pour some of that into the thread and then put the screw in, let it dry, you'll find it will hold in place quite well. It might break a little bit when you unscrew it again, but that's one way to ensure that the screws are okay. There's probably other things you can do there, lots of techniques I've shown in the past for fixing damaged threads and stuff like that. I'm sorry it's not a particularly exciting video. We've been covering old ground really because I've shown MVS cart repairs and stuff in the past, but hopefully the technique there of using an emulator, you know, taking the ROM file, you know, we took the zip, we extracted the ROMs, we corrupted deliberately one ROM at a time and then put the, you know, files back into a zip, stuck that in the emulator and tested it. You know, hopefully you could see that that's one way of working out easily, well, fairly easily. It didn't take very long to do that, a few minutes per ROM test, which ROM might be the ROM that's affected. Because what you tend to find with the ROMs on these is you don't just get a corruption at one location. More often than not, the whole ROM becomes, you know, incorrectly addressable. And it's the nature of a VROM as well. You know, PCM, you get a problem with one address line or something like that, or one data bit, it becomes garbage. You just get noise, you get what sounds like white noise or crackles and things. So just deliberately corrupted a ROM. And I just took 512k Lynx, you know, Atari Lynx ROM, one of the games from the Atari Lynx, and used that because it's exactly the right size. They are 512k, the VROMs on this particular cart here. And this is mine, by the way, this is my copy of Cyberlip. Anyway, I do hope you found the video interesting. Please like, share and subscribe. If you'd like to support the channel, please see the Ko-fi and Patreon links down below. I'll catch you in the next video.